The night was cold under the twin moons. The ruins of the outpost were silent. Broken walls standing like bones of a dead world. A human soldier named Daniel walked carefully through the dust, his boots crunching over shattered stone. His breath came slow, his eyes alert. He had fought battles before. But now he searched only for shelter. In the corner of the ruins, hidden behind a wall, an alien girl sat with her knees close to her chest. A long hood covered her face, and she pulled the cloth tightly whenever she heard footsteps. She feared the human. She had been told all her life that humans mocked her kind, that they laughed at her scars. She remembered the cruel voices, the sharp words, the shame. So she hid her face even in darkness. Daniel stopped when he felt eyes on him. He turned slowly, scanning the shadows. His hand rested on the small light on his belt. Instead of drawing a weapon, he switched on the faint lamp. A soft glow spread across the ruined stones, and in that glow he saw her, the figure of a young alien girl trembling under her hood. For a moment silence stretched. The human and the alien looked at each other. She expected anger. She expected him to shout. But Daniel only sighed. He reached into his pack. His hands moved slowly, gently. He pulled out a flask of water. "I will not hurt you," he said. His voice was calm, soft like a whisper carried by the night wind. He placed the flask on a stone between them. Then he stepped back, sitting down on the cold ground. The alien girl hesitated. Her chest rose and fell quickly. Her heart told her to run, her mind told her to hide. Yet the thirst burned inside her throat. Her lips were dry. She looked at the flask, shining faintly under the moonlight. Slowly, very slowly, she reached out and pulled it closer. Her hand shook as she lifted it to her mouth. She drank, the water cool and real, and for a moment she forgot to be afraid. Daniel watched her quietly. His eyes were not hard, not mocking. He only looked tired, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. The alien girl noticed his face in the light. A scar cut across his cheek. He too carried marks of pain. But unlike the cruel laughter she had known, his eyes carried no judgment. She set the flask down quickly, hiding her hand again under the long sleeves. She pulled her hood lower. He might still see her face. She could not allow that. Her shame was too heavy. Daniel picked up a few broken pieces of wood from the ground. He struck a small flame. A fire grew between them, weak but warm. The light flickered, painting the ruins with dancing shadows. He stretched his hands to the warmth. "You should sit closer," he said. "The night is long and cold." The alien girl did not answer. Her voice was trapped inside her throat. She wanted to say no. She wanted to keep the distance. Yet the cold air pressed against her skin. Her body shivered. Finally, she moved a little closer, still hiding, still holding her hood tight. Daniel gave a small nod. He did not force her. He simply let the silence rest between them. Only the crackle of the fire spoke. The ruins were quiet, but inside her chest, her heart still pounded for the first time. She wondered if all humans were cruel. For the first time, she saw a human who gave water instead of chains, who gave warmth instead of laughter. Her lips parted. She wanted to speak. She wanted to ask why he was different, but fear held her tongue. The human turned his gaze toward the stars above. "You do not need to hide your face from me," he said quietly. His words carried no command, only kindness. The alien girl's breath caught. She clutched her hood tighter. She thought of pulling away. She thought of running into the night, but something in his voice stopped her. Something soft, something true, and in that moment, under the twin moons and the broken walls, the first spark of trust was born. A trust neither of them had expected. A trust that would change both their lives. The fire burned low as the night stretched longer. The alien girl sat curled in her hood. Her eyes fixed on the flames. Daniel sat opposite her, his back straight but his shoulders heavy with exhaustion. He was a soldier who had seen too many nights like this, nights with silence and memory louder than gunfire. The alien girl shifted uneasily. She could not understand why he had not forced her to reveal her face. Every human she had met in the past carried sharp laughter on their tongues. They called her ugly, cursed her scars, mocked her kind. Her hood was her shield. Without it, she was nothing but shame. She thought perhaps this human was playing a trick. Perhaps he would wait until she trusted him, then laugh when she revealed her face. The thought twisted her stomach. Fear and distrust held her like iron chains. Daniel noticed her silence. He did not press her. Instead, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small piece of dried bread. He placed it on a flat stone and slid it toward her. "Eat," he said softly. His voice carried no demand, Only tired kindness, her stomach growled. She had not eaten in 2 days. She hated the weakness, hated that her body betrayed her hunger. Yet she could not resist. Her thin hands reached forward. Snatching the bread, she held it close, glancing at him as if expecting him to laugh. But he did not laugh. He only leaned back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment, letting the fire warm his hands. She bit into the bread slowly. The dry taste filled her mouth, rough and plain. But to her it was life, it was survival. Each bite calmed the fear just a little. Daniel opened his eyes again, watching the shadows play across the broken stones. "What is your name?" he asked. The words were simple, but to her they felt dangerous. A name was not something given easily. A name could be a chain. A name could be a weapon. She hesitated. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Her throat tightened. Fear battled with the ache to speak. He did not push her. He only shrugged gently. "You do not need to answer," he said. "Not until you are ready." His patience confused her. Humans were not patient, they demanded. They ordered, they took, but this one sat in silence, letting her choose, letting her decide. The fire cracked softly. The warmth brushed her skin. Her shivering slowed. Slowly she raised her hooded head. Her voice trembled like a broken whisper. "Lyra," she said. Her name slipped from her lips like a secret she had kept too long. Daniel nodded. His face showed no surprise, no judgment. "Lyra," he repeated gently. "That is a strong name." Her heart raced. She had spoken her name. She had trusted him with it. And yet he did not mock her. He did not twist it into cruelty. Instead, he gave it back to her with respect. She pulled the hood tighter around her face. Afraid of her own mistake, she should not have spoken. She should not have given him anything. Yet a strange warmth spread in her chest. A warmth she had not felt in years. Daniel leaned closer to the fire, poking it with a stick. Sparks leapt into the air, vanishing into the dark. "I will rest for a while," he said. His voice was calm. "If danger comes, you can wake me. If you want to leave, you can leave. I will not stop you." Her eyes widened. He trusted her. He left himself open. Any other human would have tied her, caged her, ensured she could not run. But he lay back on his bedroll, pulling his jacket over his chest. His eyes drifted closed. Lyra stared at him. Her mind was chaos. She could escape now. She could vanish into the night, leave him behind, but something anchored her. Something stronger than fear. She thought of his words, his offer of food, his quiet respect when she gave her name. No one had spoken to her like that before. She looked at the fire, at the human resting on the ground. Her hands tightened on her cloak. She whispered to herself, "Why are you different?" The night carried no answer, only the distant sound of wind through broken walls. And so she stayed, not running, not hiding deeper in the ruins. She stayed by the fire. Her distrust had not vanished, but the chains around her heart had loosened. For the first time in her life, she chose not to run from a human. For the first time, she stayed. The first light of dawn crept slowly into the ruins. The fire had burned down to faint embers, casting only a weak glow. Daniel stirred, opening his eyes to see the alien girl still sitting near the fire. Her hood was still pulled low, her hands tucked into her sleeves. She had not run. He sat up slowly, careful not to startle her. His body was stiff from sleeping on broken stone, but he ignored the ache. His eyes rested on her for a long moment. She was watching him too, though her hood made it hard to read her face. "Morning," he said quietly. His voice was rough but calm. Lyra shifted but did not reply. Her throat closed at the sound of his voice. She feared speaking again. She feared that if she said more, she would give away too much. Daniel stretched his arms and moved to the embers. He placed more broken wood onto the fire. Coaxing it to life, the smoke rose into the sky, carrying the smell of ash. "I will need to travel soon," he said. "But you may stay here if you want." The word surprised her. Humans never offered choices. They ordered, they demanded. Yet he spoke as if her will mattered, as if she was not just a creature hiding under a hood. Her lips trembled. The silence grew heavy. She wanted to speak, but fear wrapped chains around her voice. Finally, with effort, she whispered, Why do you not ask to see my face?" Her voice cracked. As if the words themselves hurt, Daniel paused. His hands resting near the fire, he looked at her with steady eyes. "Because it is yours," he said. "You will show it when you choose. Not when I demand." Her chest tightened. She had never heard such words before. To her kind, faces were secrets to humans. Faces were targets, her scars were her curse, and she always expected ridicule. Yet he spoke as if her choice had value. Memories burned in her mind. She remembered the first time her scars were seen. The gasps, the cruel laughter, the names thrown like knives. Ugly, broken, cursed, those words haunted her. Each time she looked in water, she saw not herself, but the monster they had made her believe she was. That was why she hid, why she kept the hood low. Her trembling hands lifted slightly. For a moment she thought of lowering the hood, but fear struck her like a blade. She pulled it tighter instead. Her body shook. Daniel noticed her movement. He stood slowly. His shadow fell across her. Her heart jumped. She thought he would pull the hood away. She braced for it. She prepared to hear the laughter again. But Daniel did not touch her hood. Instead, he removed his jacket. Worn and patched from battles, he placed it gently on her lap. "It will be cold on the road," he said. His tone was simple, ordinary, yet to her it felt like something impossible. Lyra froze, staring at the jacket. Her fingers brushed the fabric. It was warm from his body. It smelled of dust, sweat and fire. It was human, yet it was given to her, freely, without demand. Her throat tightened. Words fought their way out. You do not fear me," she whispered. The words trembled. Daniel looked at her. "Why should I fear you?" He said, "You are not my enemy." Her breath caught. She had lived her whole life expecting fear or mockery, never acceptance. His words pressed against the walls she had built inside her. Walls of distrust. For the first time, cracks appeared. Daniel moved back to his pack, giving her space. He busied himself checking supplies, letting silence settle. He did not push, he did not stare, he let her exist as she was, hood and all. Lyra clutched the jacket, her chest rising and falling fast. A storm of emotions raged inside her. Fear, confusion, and something else, something softer. She had not named it yet. The ruins stood silent around them. The twin moons had set and the sun rose higher. Its light touched the broken stones, painting them in gold. For Lyra, the world looked different for the first time. She wondered if maybe, just maybe, her face was not a curse, but a truth waiting to be seen, and for the first time, she felt the smallest spark of courage in her heart. The day passed slowly as Daniel prepared to move. He packed his supplies with steady hands, always aware of the silent girl watching him from beneath her hood. Lyra clutched his jacket tightly around her thin body. It was too large for her, the sleeves hanging past her fingers, but it held warmth she had not felt in years. They walked together across the broken path. The ruins gave way to rocky plains. Wind whipped across the stones, carrying dust into their eyes. Daniel led the way, his steps heavy but sure. Lyra followed at a distance, her hood low, her eyes always scanning the shadows. She did not trust the world. She did not even fully trust him, yet she stayed close. The memory of the fire, the bread, and his gentle words kept her feet moving behind him. She wondered if she was making a mistake, if kindness was only another trap. But something inside whispered that this human was different. As the sun fell, the temperature dropped sharply. The sky turned a deep violet, stars breaking through the darkness. Daniel stopped near the remains of a collapsed structure. Its walls were half buried, but they offered some shelter from the wind. He set down his pack, gathering what little wood he could find. A small fire flickered to life, but the night air bit harder than before. Cold wrapped itself around them, pressing into skin and bone. Daniel rubbed his hands together, his breath white in the air. He noticed Lyra shivering beneath her hood. Her body trembled no matter how tightly she pulled the jacket around herself. "You are freezing," Daniel said quietly. His voice was calm but firm. Lyra shook her head quickly. I am fine," she whispered, though her teeth betrayed her. Chattering as she spoke, Daniel did not argue. He unrolled his bedroll near the fire, spreading the thick fabric across the stone floor. He looked at her with steady eyes. "Come here," he said. "You will not survive the night like that." Lyra's heart raced. His words echoed in her head. "Come here." She thought of every warning her mother had ever whispered. Never trust humans, never let them close. Never give them power. Fear flooded her chest. She shook her head again, pulling her hood lower. "No, I cannot," she whispered. Daniel sighed, his voice softened. "I will not harm you," he said. "I give you my word. It is only warmth, nothing more." He lay down on one side of the bedroll, keeping his arms crossed over his chest. His body faced the fire, his eyes closing. "The space is here if you want it," he added. Lyra stood frozen, Her body shivered so violently she could hardly think. The cold burned her skin like ice. Her legs ached from trembling. She stared at the human lying still. His breathing slow, steady. He had given her food. Water, fire, and now warmth. Each time she doubted him, he showed her no cruelty, only patience. Her fear battled with need. She could not survive the cold alone. Slowly, painfully, she stepped closer. Her hands clutched the jacket as if it could protect her from both the cold and her terror. She lowered herself onto the far edge of the bedroll, curling tightly into herself, her hood still pulled low. The warmth reached her immediately. The fabric beneath her was soft compared to stone, and the heat of his body radiated through the narrow space between them. Her shivering slowed. Her chest still rose and fell quickly. But the cold no longer cut like knives. Daniel did not move. He kept his arms folded, his body still. His voice came quiet. "Rest. You are safe here." The words pressed against the fear inside her. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let them sink deep. She turned slightly, watching him from under her hood. His eyes were closed, his face calm. He was not reaching for her, not mocking, not laughing. He was simply there. Her breath slowed. Her trembling eased. She whispered so softly even she could barely hear it. "Why are you kind?" But the night swallowed the question. Daniel did not stir for the first time in years. Lyra felt the pull of sleep while another being lay so close. For the first time, she closed her eyes without fear of chains or cruelty. Her hood still covered her face, but her heart carried the smallest spark of trust. And as the stars wheeled overhead, two strangers lay side by side, one human, one alien, bound by nothing but fragile kindness. The night was long, and though the fire crackled gently, the ruins around them felt colder than ever. Lyra lay tense on the edge of the bedroll, her hood still hiding her face. She could feel the warmth of the human beside her. Steady and constant, Daniel had not moved. He breathed in slow, calm rhythm, his arms folded across his chest. For a while she thought he had fallen asleep. Yet when the wind howled through the cracks in the broken walls, he spoke softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "I used to hate nights like this," Daniel said. His tone carried no demand, no weight, only quiet memory. Lyra did not answer, but her ears strained to catch his words. Curiosity tugged against her fear. "In the war," Daniel continued, "the cold was worse than the battles. Men froze before dawn, fear lived in us all, and the dark never felt safe." He paused, his breath misting in the air, but still. We carried on. The alien girl's fingers tightened around his jacket. Her heart pounded. She had never heard a human speak without pride or cruelty. This one spoke of pain, of loss, as if he did not need to hide it. Her lips parted before she could stop herself. I know the cold," she whispered. Her voice shook. Daniel turned his head slightly. Though his eyes remained on the fire, he did not push her. He only listened. "My people were driven from our homes," she said softly. "We wandered, always hiding. Always afraid. When I was young, they laughed at me. Because of my scars," her breath caught, shame rising like a tide. "So I hid my face, I learned silence. I learned to survive." Daniel's chest rose slowly. He let the silence rest, not interrupting, not asking questions. His patience was like the fire itself, steady, warm, never forcing. Lyra's voice grew steadier. "They said I was cursed, that even my own people did not want me. When the humans came, it was worse. They mocked us. Some were taken, some were hurt. I learned never to trust." Her hands trembled as she pulled the hood tighter. Even as the words slipped free, Daniel opened his eyes. Turning them toward her, his gaze was calm. "That sounds heavy to carry," he said quietly. No judgment, no laughter. Only simple truth. Lyra froze. Her chest ached. No one had ever spoken like that. No one had ever treated her pain as real, as something that mattered. For a moment her throat closed. Then words spilled like water breaking from a dam. "I wanted to disappear," she whispered. "To vanish so no one could see me, but still I lived, still I walked." Even when every day felt like punishment, her voice cracked. She turned her head away. Ashamed of her weakness, Daniel shifted slightly. The faintest movement closer. Not enough to touch, but enough for her to feel the warmth stronger. "You are still here," he said. His tone was low but firm. "That means you are stronger than the ones who tried to break you." Her breath caught. The words pierced through the heavy chains inside her. She had never thought of survival as strength. To her, survival was shame, but in his voice it sounded different. It sounded like honor for a long time. The only sound was the fire, crackling softly. The world outside the ruins seemed far away. For the first time, she did not feel utterly alone. Daniel closed his eyes again, his voice faint with weariness. I lost friends in the war. I buried brothers, the pain does not leave, but sharing it makes it lighter. His words drifted like a lullaby. If you carry your pain alone, it crushes you. If you share it, it cannot win. Lyra stared at him through the shadows of her hood. His face was calm, lined with fatigue but not cruelty. She felt something she had almost forgotten, a strange warmth in her chest, something softer than fear. Her body relaxed inch by inch. The tension in her muscles eased, her eyes grew heavy. She whispered a final word before sleep claimed her. Thank you. And as her hood slipped slightly while she drifted into slumber, the faint outline of her scarred cheek caught the glow of the fire. Daniel saw it, but his eyes did not flinch. He said nothing, only let the silence hold her. For the first time in years, Lyra slept without nightmares. The first rays of dawn crept into the ruined shelter, soft light spilling across broken stone and the faint glow of dying embers. Daniel stirred awake, his muscles stiff from the cold floor. He turned slowly, his eyes adjusting to the morning haze. Lyra still slept beside him, curled under his jacket. Her hood had slipped during the night, sliding back enough to reveal part of her face. The scars that had haunted her all her life were visible now, pale lines tracing across skin that was otherwise delicate. The sunlight touched her features gently, painting her not as cursed but as something fragile and real. Daniel did not move quickly. He only watched for a moment, his expression calm. His eyes did not narrow, did not flinch. He had seen scars before, on soldiers, on innocents, on himself. To him they were not marks of shame, but proof of survival. Lyra stirred, her hand twitching as she felt the warmth of light. Slowly her eyes opened. She blinked, confusion setting in when she saw the jacket draped over her. Then realization struck her like lightning. Her hood had fallen. Her heart leapt in panic, her body stiffened. She pulled the fabric back over her face in a rush. Her breathing quickened, her hands trembled as if she had been struck. Shame poured into her chest, heavy and merciless. I told you not to look, she whispered harshly. Her voice cracked, her eyes filled with fear. Daniel shook his head, his voice steady. I was not looking to judge, he said. I only saw you as you are. Her lips trembled. She clenched the fabric tighter. You do not understand, she said. When they saw my face, they laughed, they called me broken. They said no one would ever want me. Even my own people turned away. Her voice lowered, sharp with pain. Humans were worse. Daniel leaned forward slightly. His eyes locked on her hidden form. They were wrong, he said firmly. His tone was steady like stone. Scars are not weakness. They are proof that you endured, that you fought, that you lived. Lyra shook her head violently. No, you only say that because you pity me, she whispered. Her chest tightened, her voice shaking. You will laugh like the others when you remember. When you see me clearly. Daniel exhaled, slow and steady. He lifted the sleeve of his uniform and rolled it back. A long scar ran across his forearm. Deep and jagged, a memory carved into flesh. Do you see this? He said, his tone was calm. This scar is mine, it came from battle. It reminds me of fire and pain, but it also reminds me that I survived. She hesitated, staring at the mark. Her fingers gripped the edge of her hood tighter. We all carry scars, Daniel continued. Some on our bodies, some in our hearts. You should never hide them as if they are curses. They mean you are alive. His voice grew softer. And to me, that is not ugly, that is strength. Her breath caught. The words pressed against every wall she had built around herself. The walls shook, cracks spreading across them. Tears burned her eyes beneath the hood. She wanted to believe him, but doubt screamed inside her chest. The morning wind swept through the broken walls. Carrying the sound of silence, Daniel leaned back. Not forcing, not demanding. He let his words hang in the air like an offering. He knew trust was not won in a moment, but piece by piece Lyra sat frozen, her mind torn between fear and longing. Part of her wanted to run, to vanish into the endless plains, to hide her face forever. But another part, small yet growing, wanted to believe the human's words, wanted to believe that her scars did not define her. She pulled her knees close, burying her face in her arms. Her voice cracked as she whispered, If you mock me, I will never forgive it. Daniel's gaze did not waver. "I will never mock you," he said. His tone was heavy with truth. The silence stretched again. The sun rose higher, casting golden light through the ruins for the first time. Lyra felt the weight of choice pressing on her. Her fear was strong, but so was the fragile thread of hope that had begun to form between them, and though she still hid her face, deep inside her heart a seed of courage stirred. One day she thought she might lower the hood by her own choice. The sun climbed higher, burning away the cold night air. Daniel gathered his gear slowly, careful not to disturb the fragile quiet between them. Lyra sat against the broken wall, her hood pulled low once more. Her hands clenched around the fabric as if it were the last shield she had. For hours, silence stretched between them. Daniel did not push her, he only packed, checked his rifle, tied his boots. His movements were steady, calm. Each small action told her what his words already had. He was not in a hurry to see her face, he was waiting, patient as stone. Lyra's chest ached, her mind spun with memories. Cruel laughter echoing, eyes filled with scorn. Words thrown like knives. All her life she had been told her scars made her unworthy. Her hood was her prison, but also her armor without it. She feared she would break, yet last night had been different. The whispers in the dark, the warmth they shared, the steady voice that told her scars meant survival. His words lingered, stronger than the voices of the past. She could not ignore them. Her hands trembled as she touched the edge of her hood. Daniel noticed the movement but said nothing. He crouched near the fire, stirring the ashes into gray dust. His silence gave her space, and in that silence, courage slowly grew. "I am tired of hiding," Lyra whispered. Her voice was raw. She pulled the hood down slowly. Inch by inch, her breath shook. Fear clawed at her chest, but she did not stop. At last, her face was bare to the morning light. Scars traced across her cheek, marks of battles and suffering she had carried since youth. Her eyes glistened, wide and uncertain. She braced herself, waiting for the laughter, waiting for the insult, waiting for the look of disgust that always came. Daniel turned his head. His eyes met hers. He saw her fully now, her scars, her trembling, her pain. For a long moment he said nothing. Then his lips curved into the faintest of smiles. "You are strong," he said simply. His voice was firm, steady, carrying no pity. Only truth. Her breath caught. The words struck deep, deeper than any wound she had ever carried. Her hands shook as tears slid down her scarred cheeks. "You do not fear me," she whispered. Daniel shook his head. "No," he said. "I respect you." The weight of years pressed against her shoulders, and for the first time it began to lift. She felt the chains of shame weaken, breaking under the warmth of his words. She covered her mouth with trembling hands, laughter and sobs mingling in her throat. Daniel stood and offered his hand, not as a demand, but as an invitation. Lyra hesitated. Her eyes locked on the scar across his arm, the one he had shown her, a mark of survival, like hers. Slowly, with breath shaking, she reached forward. Her hand slid into his, fragile but real. He pulled her gently to her feet, his grip steady. She swayed, unused to such closeness, unused to trust. But he did not let her fall. They stood side by side, human and alien, scarred yet alive. The ruined world stretched around them, uncertain and harsh, but in that moment, the future did not feel so heavy. Daniel looked toward the horizon. "There is a long road ahead," he said, "but we do not have to walk it alone." Lyra's lips trembled, then curved into the faintest smile. Her hood hung loose around her shoulders. Forgotten, her scars were still there, but they no longer felt like chains. They felt like truth. They felt like strength. Together they stepped out of the ruins. The wind carried dust across the plains. But for the first time in her life, Lyra did not bow her head in shame. She walked beside the human, her face uncovered. And in the quiet bond forged from kindness and trust, she discovered something stronger than fear. She discovered hope.